Good morning, everybody. I am so sorry I did not tape last Friday. We were preparing for Easter, and you know how Easter is so crazy. But anyway, I am back, and it is Tuesday morning. I believe it's the 17th of April, if I can recall. The days are starting to run together. This is Ana Maria Manalo, and I am getting ready to do episode 6, the continuation of the Mound Behind the House. We are going to try to do the full 30 minutes here before I get cut off. So without much further ado, I am going to begin the story where we left off. May had at that time discovered something had entered the house. She was unable to discern what it was, but it left the carpet soaked in water. Okay. Paul started in consternation at his sister. They were sitting at a local diner. They had called someone in to tow Ron's car to his garage. They decided to get a bite to eat so he could understand what had happened. He listened without judgment and wondered what was really happening at May's house. Part of him regretted not responding quicker, just in case there was an intruder at her house. Part of him wondered whether Ron had returned to May's home after leaving with the cop. It was all just too bizarre, this strange and explosive relationship. He wanted it to end for his sister's sanity as well as his own. Now he had the man's car in his garage, so he planned to quickly fix the dent himself, as he was a collision specialist. This way he could correct what May had done and return the car to its owner, whom he had never met, but felt he should in order to apologize on her behalf. Who was the man outside the French doors? Was someone now stalking his sister, aware that she lived alone? If so, was it one of her numerous boyfriends, quote-unquote? As soon as Paul dropped May off at the house, he decided to call Cindy and tell her. She agreed to stop in with her husband to check on May later that evening. Her husband knew the local police in the area, and they could always arrange to have a few uniforms drive by to check the house periodically, hoping they would deter a possible break-in, if there was that possibility. May had failed to note the name of the cop who had come to the door with Ron. She had misplaced the citation. Paul made a note to follow up with the precinct as he wanted to resolve the car issue. Then Paul contacted his older brother Glenn, who invited him over to do some fishing. "Relax," he had told him. "You're handling it, and the police are already involved." Paul agreed to spend some time with his older brother to get a break from May. His brother had just purchased a modest cabin in the Poconos, and Paul had not been to the cabin, a quick hour's drive from his condo. There they could catch up and form a plan together to address their sister's dilemma. As the week drew to a close, all was silent from May. Paul called the police and indicated the car was in the shop, the paint dry and ready for pickup. He followed up on the drive-by on his sister's house, and the police confirmed they would. Paul took a photo of the Beetle on his cell phone, evidence that May had done what she was asked to do to repair the damage she had done at his expense. He stopped by May's home and asked her to contact Ron to pick up the car, asked her to pay for the materials minus his labor. A few minutes later, after he left her house, his cell rang. It was May again. She told him that Ron wanted her to pick him up in New York and take him to his car. Paul adamantly told her to stay away from Ron and arranged for an Uber to get the man in Brooklyn. When a green Toyota Camry appeared at his garage later that day, Paul observed a nondescript man step out from the back seat. Paul described a man with beady eyes and a balding forehead emerged from the car. He was of average build with a paunch and not exactly how May described the dashing and dapper date she had portrayed Ron to be. Without much introduction, the man approached the newly painted hood, touched it, and perfunctorily thanked Paul. Paul extended his hand to shake, but the man quietly ignored the gesture, entered the car, and left. Rude, Paul thought. Then again, his sister had asked for it. Friday, Paul checked in on his sister, inspected the backyard in the afternoon sun. No footprints, as she'd reported. She had not seen anything since that evening. Paul exited the iron gate that led to the river and took in the beautiful view as the sun began its descent. He spotted a mound of dirt, almost like mulch, by the edge of the river. Had he seen that before? Curious, Paul descended the slope leading to the river's edge. Whatever it was had a conical shape too perfect for something natural. Just a few feet from him, he noted it was just slightly lower than his height of 6 feet. It was not mulch, but compacted dirt. In the dimming light, Paul touched the edge with his foot and noted the firmness of the small ant-like hill. He decided it was recently formed, as grass has not grown on its surface. He kicked it and pulled back, wondering if he was disturbing a hornet's nest, a rather large one. "It wasn't there before," she said. Paul leaped back in surprise, accidentally stepping on his sister's toe. She had emerged from the gate and was standing behind them the entire time. "Did you recently get landscaping done?" She shook her head, looking out at the river. "Perhaps some ant hill." "Too large," he indicated. There were no ants on it or anywhere where a trail of ants would be. "Bees?" May returned to the house and minutes later emerged with a hornet spray. As he examined the mound, he realized that was a hornet's nest, but it would have had a hole or two detectable from the surface. This one had none. He sprayed it away, noting that whatever lived in it would be back in its nest by now, and inactive. Dimly, he wondered if snakes built hills like these. The thought made him instinctively move back a step. "Sorry about the dog, people." He handed back the spray bottle to May, told her to expect a few cops in their cruisers passing by starting that night. Paul approached the mound, this time kicking it solidly with his foot for good measure. No snakes. Part of the structure gave in and the top collapsed like a mini avalanche. May backed away as Paul watched, the spray aimed and ready for whatever emerged. Seconds passed. He shook his head, re-entered the gate, and bid her good night. Locking the French doors behind her, May waved at her brother as he left through the front door. In the darkness, a man in silhouette stood by the front door as Paul left in his car. His eyes were luminous and red with anger. May turned to her left in time to see the man standing near her, exuding menace. She gasped as it made eye contact with her, and she backed away and slammed the door. Quickly, she parted the curtains on the side window near the door. No one was there. The man had vanished. May ran to the French doors leading to the backyard, fronting the river, and checked the locks. She looked out and saw the man, floating past the gate, turning in the direction of the river. She blinked in disbelief. Then she saw flashlights searching her backyard. May looked through the front porch, through the window, past the fence. She saw cops aiming their flashlights at her property. She opened the front door in relief to talk to them about the intruder. As the two uniformed men walked the perimeter of her property, They noted no footprints and nothing amiss, other than the mound that Paul had examined and kicked earlier. And that's it for this chapter. Stay tuned next week. Once again, usually I read on Tuesdays for you to enjoy all through the weekend. In the next installment, hopefully we'll find out what the nature of that creature is that glared openly at May. Is it alive? Is it a ghost, an apparition? Is it an alien? Stay tuned. This is Anna Maria Manalo for Sinister Archives Podcast. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.